Welcome to the Backdoor Fantasy Sports Podcast with Russo and Jordy.
All right, guys, it is game day. We're going to talk a little bit of football. We're going to do a little bit of a preview of tonight's game, the Bills versus the Dolphins. Very excited for this matchup. There's a lot of DFS value in this game, in our opinion. We have our prize picks and underdog picks video out already if you haven't caught that yet. Yeah, that's available. This game's got a 48.5 point over under, and the Dolphins are favored by 2.5. So should be really juicy for daily fantasy sports and for fantasy. I saw that Devon Achane is actually looking like there's optimism he's going to play. They're going to just see how his pre-game workouts look. But the coaching staff is saying they're optimistic he will be able to play. Nice, which is great. Yeah, because you don't need that much work from Achane for him to be relevant. But yeah, I mean, like we saw what Tyreek was able to do last week, even after the police debacle. Just bouncing right into that game, having a monster game. Yeah. So if that can't get you out of the right headspace to play, I don't think this Bills defense is going to be able to stop Tyreek tonight either. So feeling pretty good about a lot of the pieces on the Miami side for fantasy. And then as far as Buffalo goes, I think it should be solid too. I think Josh Allen's going to have another great game. Looking for Keon Coleman to actually take a little step up. Hopefully he keeps that 30% target share that we saw last week. I know that there's a lot of guys that are high on taking his touchdown this week. So I'm more leaning towards just the receiving yards, but yeah, I think, if you drafted Keon Coleman, I wouldn't be afraid to put him in the flex tonight.
Yeah, I think Dalton Kincaid's going to have a bounce back too. I don't think that's going to continue with him not getting weird. Targeted at all. That was really odd.
Yeah, you got to think they're going to make some adjustments. But yeah, this game should be fireworks. Nice Thursday night football game. I don't think there's anything else really to note about the game tonight as far as injuries go or anything. We know, we'll see how the workouts go. But yeah, you'll definitely want to monitor that. But if Achane is cleared to play, obviously you got to play him. And just take your chances with whatever his workload looks like. All right. Well, let's get into our starts of the week. Before we do, though, if you guys haven't signed up for Underdog yet, they're an official partner of the show. And we've been having a blast because they've been dropping specials every single day still. If you are new to DFS, it's a lot of fun. On Underdog, you can they give you all these different props. You choose higher or lower. And on the mobile, I haven't noticed it on the desktop, but on the mobile, they actually give you a lot of alt lines too, which is awesome. But there's a free play for CeeDee Lamb on the board already. And if you sign up using code BACKDOOR or go through the link in our description, they're going to give you a up to $1,000 in bonus cash with your first deposit and a free play. So you'll have the CeeDee Lamb free play. They've been dropping no sweat tokens and all sorts of goodies on there. The no sweat token is kind of like a protected play. So definitely give it a shot. Sign up and take advantage of that bonus cash and the free play. Just use code BACKDOOR and they will hook you up. But let's get into our starts of the week.
Awesome.
So I'm going to let you lead the way this time, Jordy.
Okay.
You can go first.
Put me on the spot here. I'm just kidding. Sweet. Yeah, well, I'll just start with my quarterback then. I'm going to actually go with Jayden Daniels this week as my start of the week. Most of you who are Jayden Daniels owners are probably starting him, maybe not. But I think this is a good week to start him. We got Dan Quinn saying he doesn't want him to run as much. I mean, he could do half the running work and you'd still be happy. The dude went for 16 attempts. That was kind of excessive. He did fumble the ball 3 times, but he went against Todd Bowles' defense in his rookie debut. But he did solid, I think. 24 attempts passing for 17 completions for 184 yards. No passing touchdowns, but he did run for 16 attempts, 88 yards, and 2 touchdowns on his feet. So the dude's definitely got to learn how to slide. He's kind of rolling across the floor like a child when he's trying to get on the ground. So that ain't going to cut it, but I think they'll figure all that out. I don't think we will see him run as much. but I think it's just kind of an instinct thing for him. So if he feels the need to, he's going to run. I think he'll still be getting 10 attempts rushing per week. I just think it's a big part of their offense. So I don't know if they want him doing 16, but I think 8 to 10 is plenty. And he's really quick and smart on the feet. So I think he's going to be able to get, Lamar type value out of his running game. So liking that a lot. The matchup is pretty solid. He's going against the Giants. The Giants didn't look good in any form of the word. They just had a rough go of it. Maybe they bounce back, and I think they'll probably maybe win this game. I don't know. I wouldn't even be very confident. I think this game's a total 50-50 on which way it's going to go, but I think Jayden Daniels is going to excel against them. I think we're going to see a better passing outing from him. I think he'll get over 200 yards and at least have a passing touchdown in this game. But I think with the rushing upside, I think he could have a monster game. I think he's yet to kind of like flourish, and I think this could be the game where he kind of, really pops off. So really liking that one for the quarterback. Do you want to just bounce between one another? Do you want to go there? Okay.
I'll jump into my quarterback start.
Cool. Let's do it.
Yeah, and speaking of Jayden Daniels, I love that play too. For fantasy, he had a monster game against the Bucks, and I know that's 88 rushing yards on like 100 attempts or something.
Right.
But I still love the rushing upside, and this is a 43-point over under for this game. They actually do have the Commanders favored by 2, so I think that this is not going to be as tough of a matchup as week 1 for Jayden, and I know that they want to get some sort of actual offense going, not just having him scramble all the time. So that being said, his rushing upside, they could cut his attempts in half, and that's still going to be great for fantasy.
Oh, absolutely.
With that rushing upside.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that this is going to be another step in the right direction for the Commanders. Still figuring out. They changed that whole coaching staff. They've got Cliff Kingsbury in there, new head coach. And plus you got a rookie. But I thought that was a great outing for him in week 1 against a really tough defense. So my quarterback start of the week is going to be someone who obviously is an auto start if he's on your squad. But if you're considering like maybe daily fantasy, I'm going to be going with Anthony Richardson, who, I just love this guy. In our startup draft for Dynasty, I drafted him, paid a premium in the startup. I think I grabbed him in like the 5th round or something because I was just like, I really loved the upside, very special prospect. And we saw a little bit of that last year, but it was such a small sample size that the question marks were still there about the passing game. And even now we know he's got probably the most beautiful deep ball in the league. At least the most powerful, but we still need to see a little bit of growth with his actual accuracy for passing across the board. But this is someone who has played 5 career games and has 5 career rushing touchdowns. He's scored a rushing touchdown in 4 out of his last 5 games, and he's got 1 game where he went for 2 rushing touchdowns. Last week, he went for 6 rush attempts for 56 yards. I think that's kind of something we could see from Jayden Daniels this week, is like he doesn't need that much to really get things dialed in. But yeah, 6 rush attempts, 56 yards and a touchdown, went 9 of 19 for 212 yards. And I think he got 2 passing touchdowns too, right? Yeah. I think he got maybe 3,
one to
Dylan,
total, one to Pierce.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm super excited about that. It's like this over under here for this game is not that juicy either. A 40.5 over under with the Colts favored by 3. This is going to be game script dependent a little bit. Obviously, I don't think Jordan Love's playing this week, but he did go from being out to being doubtful. So if it's Malik Willis, this could turn into just a tough situation. We have to see how that offense looks. It's hard to gauge the Malik Willis situation because we saw him on one play in Brazil with a really terrible field to play on, So I think LaFleur is a good enough coach to get some sort of offense going. He's still got these awesome weapons. I think LaFleur will figure it out. But I think that the Colts were really close in this week 1 matchup against the Texans. So I don't know if Green Bay is going to be able to have enough to keep this close. So there is a chance that this turns into a second half, like, a lot more rushing plays. But either way, with the upside of Richardson, I think we still see some deep balls. Maybe we get another 50, 60-yard touchdown. I don't think that that's too crazy to say, like, there's a good chance that we see another one of those, because he does it so often, at least takes those shots downfield. So I'm feeling good about that with the rushing upside, with the matchup. The matchup's actually not too scary when it comes to quarterbacks. So yeah, I'm just staying in the flames. Again, pretty obvious start, but as far as actually all the quarterbacks on the board this week for fantasy, I had to go with Anthony Richardson. What do you want to do next? Running backs?
Sure.
Let's talk about why you should be using Chalkboard, the daily fantasy platform that runs specials every day of the week. Build plays for as low as $1 and enjoy the wide variety of alt lines. The higher the line, the higher the payout. It's that simple. Once you've made your picks, you can go whole hog with their max cash option or insure yourself with their shield play option. Download Chalkboard on your Apple or Android device and use code BACKDOOR for a 100% deposit match.
All right. So the running back I'm going to be going with is Rhamondre Stevenson. This is actually surprisingly like a person who is like a number 2 back, or was. Now he's probably not. Or like maybe a flex option for some people who are pretty deep, with their team. So Rhamondre looked amazing. 25 attempts, 120 yards, 1 touchdown. He had 3 targets for 3 receptions. He only had 6 yards. He did fumble once, but he with all that work, it's not very surprising that he did. But honestly, like, it was very clear that he was the main part of the offense. Like, they paid him, they wanted him to be the guy, and now we're seeing that. So he ran all over Cincinnati in Cincinnati. So I think he's going to be able to do the same at Seattle, or in Seattle. He's not going to Seattle, though they're playing Seattle in New England. So I think the game script's going to be pretty good for him. We got a 38.5 over and under. The Patriots are, not favored. The Seattle Seahawks are actually the favorite, so by 3.5 here. So I don't see that being the case. I didn't really like anything I seen from the Seattle offense, sadly. I thought we were going to kind of see like a JSN resurgence. And, I think Geno just kind of had a rough time. That was a rough game 1 for them, but I don't think it's going to get any easier. I kind of liked what I seen from the Patriots offense. I thought they looked really poised. They all looked well coached, and they ran the ball really well. So I think they were going to see the same kind of script. I think Rhamondre is going to get 20 touches in that range, and I think they're going to control the clock again. So it was a weird game between them and Denver. Denver's run game didn't look very good either. So I think we're going to see better play from the Patriots run game. And I don't think Seattle's going to be able to hold up that long. So I really like this game for Rhamondre Stevenson. The dude just had an insane week 1. And it was very obvious that, like I said, he was the main part of the script for the game. So, I can see the same thing happening coming into this week. The Seattle's rushing defense is ranked, like in the middle. It's kind of hard to say like an exact number because we don't really know yet. It's just week 1, so maybe they play better. But I like Rhamondre in this matchup for sure. So I'm going to be taking him.
Yeah, man. I was like really, Rhamondre is another one of those guys that just seems like an absolute steal where we were getting him in drafts if week 1 is any indication of what his workload is going to look like, because there was all this talk about Antonio Gibson, because they paid him and they didn't give him obviously a monster deal or anything, but they brought him in.
Right.
And there was a lot of talk about him taking the passing down work, but my gosh, Rhamondre is just that he's getting that workhorse usage that you look for fantasy. So
absolutely,
I love that play. And then also we've got, the situation here with Kenneth Walker. It looks like he did not practice on Wednesday.
Oof.
So still be monitoring that. But there's a chance, Kenneth Walker was one of the only highlights of that Seattle offense before he got injured. He seemed like he was having a pretty solid game. So if that's the case, Charbonnet could be sneaky. Obviously, if he ends up missing, Charbonnet's an auto start, probably a solid RB2 flex this week.
Yeah.
But I do love this script for Rhamondre as well. So yeah. So mine is going to be my running back is going to be J.K. Dobbins, who is looking like the 2024 Kyron Williams for fantasy. He completely blew my expectations out of the water. Like, question marks. I was like really low on Dobbins all off season, and then the closer we got to week one, the narrative just kind of changed, and I started to really believe. So I was able to actually snag him in a few leagues that I'm in, and some best ball leagues. Thank God, because that's looking like it's paying off great. Last week he played 58% of snaps, which is kind of expected. A little, not like a crazy workhorse type usage, but on 10 attempts he went for 135 yards, and he got a touchdown too. 3 targets, 3 receptions. But if you just watched that game, it looks like there's no one in that backfield that can do what he's doing. So we really hope that JK stays healthy all year. Let's take a look at this over under. But yeah, we hope JK stays healthy all year, because this just looks like an awesome comeback story. And he's got, he's on a $50,000 contract. Like, this dude's just been through the ringer.
Yeah.
So gosh, like $50,000. I hope, I haven't looked into it, but I hope there's some fat incentives baked into that contract, because he could, make a little bit more money.
I think it's like 2.1 million incentives, which is nothing really for a running back playing that well, but
with his caliber. Yeah, but hopefully he's able to hit all of those. We got a 39-point over under. Chargers looked better than I was expecting. They, like, we've got the planner's foot situation with Herbert. Like, how's that going to play out? We also hope he can stay healthy and not be dealing with that. But the Chargers exceeded expectations in week 1, in my opinion. Now they've got the Carolina Panthers. So I love this matchup for JK. The Panthers are borderline right now. Like, they don't look like a team that should be in the league. Like, yeah. I don't mean to be that harsh about it, but they don't. Like, they look like a college team trying to play an NFL team. They did last year. Now they look like that this year. So, like we've said before with Bryce Williams, Dave Canales, we believe in him, and I think he'll still get this figured out. I hope so, because our season-long picks, I took Bryce Young to go over his yards. That was a very discouraging week 1. But 39-point over under, Chargers favored by 6. I think the Chargers are going to have no problem with the Panthers this week, and I think with J.K. Dobbins just going off, he's just way too fast. Like, he looked so fast in that game. And with the Chargers favored so heavily, in my opinion, even more than like a 6-point spread, I think that's kind of generous to the Panthers, considered what they looked like last week. But on only 10 attempts, going for 135 yards, arguably, we'll see. Maybe their defense is a little bit better than we're basing off of last week, but the Raiders didn't look good either last week. The Raiders defense was really surprising to me.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyways, J.K. Dobbins, I feel great. Like, if you have him, like, you got the lottery ticket this year, as long as he stays healthy. We'll see. We don't want to overreact to just week 1, but my gosh, did he look amazing.
Yeah.
All right, bro.
Yeah. Totally agree. I did see that during the game, at the beginning of the game with the Chargers, they said that the planner's foot deal isn't even an issue anymore. I don't know how true that is, but they're saying that Herbert is like 100% cleared in their eyes, so he looks fine. So hopefully that's the truth, and they're not. What
a steal there too, if you got Herbert so late.
Yeah,
because his ADP was diving.
Yeah, it was. It's cool. So going into wide receivers now, I've got George Pickens. This might be a little bit of a surprise, but I try to go with someone that maybe you have, as like a flex option or a wide receiver 2 for most of you guys. It's obvious, like, some of these, it's kind of hard for us sometimes, because it's like, it's super easy to be like, well, you got to start CeeDee Lamb. It's like, well, yeah, obviously, but so we try to find a little bit of value in here where it's like, I'm going with the guy who's ranked like 30th on this list, of like people I have here. So I really like this matchup for Pickens, though. I'm a big George Pickens believer. I'm a big believer in the Steelers. I'm not even like really a Steelers fan, but they're winners, man. Like they always figured out. Mike Tomlin's always got this team like either in the playoffs or he's having a winning season. So I always believe in them. And George Pickens looked really good last week. Going into that game, he had 7 targets for 6 receptions for 85 yards. The dude was averaging 14.17 yards a carry. He had 13 fantasy points in full PPR. And if he would have had a touchdown, he would have had a monster week. So, it's like we're looking at a guy who would have had 20 points if he had scored. And that was a really tough game in Atlanta, and I called it. I said that I think they were going to win that game. I thought they were going to control the clock more with the running backs, but Jaylen Warren didn't really get any love. They did use Najee Harris quite a bit, and they actually used Cordell Patterson more than Jaylen Warren, which is very discouraging for me because I'm a Jaylen Warren holder. So thank you, Arthur Smith. Now I have the plague on my team, but outside of what he does with the running backs, the wide receivers look pretty solid. I was very happy with George Pickens. Obviously, we had no targets to Roman Wilson, which was kind of surprising. I thought he was going to get more work in the system. Van Jefferson only had like 2 targets, so it was clear that George Pickens was just the number one. Obviously, I think we all kind of knew that anyway, but he looks pretty solid. I like what I've seen from him a lot. The over-under in this game, let's just take a look here. It's a mid-afternoon window game, 325. We got Pittsburgh versus Denver. Pittsburgh is favored by 2.5. I think Pittsburgh's going to win this game too. I think their defense looks really, really good. They've got so much talent on that defense. They're healthy. They got Minkah Fitzpatrick back. That defense just looks like it's clicking. They held Atlanta in check, and literally Chris Boswell scored all their points. So it was like
wild.
Yeah, so I think the offense is going to look a little better, but that's all they have to do is just look a little bit better for them to win this game, I think, because their defense looks so good. So we got a 36.5 over under. I think that's pretty fair. I think it'll be relatively low scoring, but I think Pittsburgh's going to eke this one out again. I just don't like really what I've seen from Denver's offense again. It looked really forced. It looked really vanilla. It was like, oh, McLaughlin's in the game. I wonder what's going to happen. Like they're passing the ball to him. It was just very obvious. So hopefully they get that thing steered in the right direction. But the Bo Nix looked very shaky. I thought we were going to see like a stronger performance from Bo Nix and like maybe a shakier performance from Jayden Daniels, but it was the opposite way around. Bo Nix, he had some flashes early of like looking poised where he wasn't making dumb decisions with the ball, and then it all just went to hell and he started making really bad decisions. So he should have had honestly 3 interceptions in that game. He might have already had that. I don't know what he ended with, but there was so many plays where he just, let's see here. So he had 2 interceptions. He could have had like 5. He had 42 attempts for 26 yards in that game. That is awful.
You mean 26 completions?
Yeah, 26 completions.
Or 26 yards.
Sorry. Yeah, 26 completions.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah, no passing touchdowns. He had 138 yards, 2 interceptions. So I think they're going to absolutely just devour this kid on defense with the Steelers, but I do think the Steelers offense is going to get more opportunities with that. So I think he's going to turn the ball over. That's why I'm hating on Bo Nix right now, because I think he's going to turn the ball over and it's going to give this offense more opportunities. So I think we're going to see the target share for Pickens. I think he'll be in the 12 range, honestly. I think they're going to get it rolling, whether it's still Fields or if they put Wilson in. I think if they put Wilson in, it might be a little bit better for him.
I think it is going to be Fields.
Okay, so I love that. Their team looked great. It looked like Pickens and Fields had this sort of chemistry going on. They were always with each other, kind of talking it out. So hopefully that continues to grow for them. And that's my wide receiver pick for the week.
Yeah, I love that pick. Even with the 36.5 over under, we know that like if the Steelers get up by a lot, I mean, gosh, the Broncos are going to have their hands absolutely full with this Steelers defense.
Man.
Like
TJ Watt, dude, my Lord, that guy is just
eat
a
this
force. Bo Nix is going to see that kid barreling down on him every other possession. It's just crazy.
Yeah, he is just an absolute freak.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about that on Sunday. Like who's better, like TJ or was JJ? And it's like TJ is fresh for us, but it does look like, I mean,
Yeah,
TJ is just an
my
absolute
money's on
monster.
TJ. I think he's just too good. Like literally the most dominant player on defense, I think, now that Donald's retired.
Yeah, and I could see this turning into a run heavy game, in the sense that, if the Steelers get up, like the Steelers are going to want to put some points on the board though this week. I think that, like not getting in the end zone last week, they're going to want to get in the end zone this week. And I wouldn't be surprised if they scheme something up for Pickens to get in the end zone. But with the heavy run game that they might have an opportunity for, that's just going to open up the pass game, and they might want to go out there and make a statement, since they were literally scoreless outside of field goals last week. So definitely like that play. My wide receiver start of the week is going to be Malik Nabers. I actually think, I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic. Obviously, you drafted him high in Dynasty. And, like you drafted this guy to be a wide receiver 1. I think we're going to get that this year. But we got a 43 point over under in this game. We've got this matchup against the Commanders. We saw what Mike Evans and Chris Godwin did to them last week. I think that Malik Nabers is going to be too much for this secondary as well. The Commanders favored by 2, so we'll see how things get going. But I actually like that for this script for Nabers. We have Nabers last week, 7 targets, 5 receptions, still turned those 5 receptions into 66 yards. He played 100% of snaps, which is expected, but it's also just great to see, when you're banking on this guy eventually being a wide receiver 1 for your team. So I think he's going to take a step up this week. And we had Wan'Dale Robinson last week getting 12 targets. I don't think we see the same situation. I know, Wan'Dale Robinson is a little underrated. I think he's a good receiver, really athletic, pretty fast, shifty. But I think that we're going to see a lot more from Malik Nabers this week in a great matchup. And, the pressure's on. Daniel Jones needs to deliver. He needs to go out there and have a more solid game this week. So I think that we're going to see, Malik Nabers with at least 10 targets. Wouldn't be surprised if it just, they just switch that up and Malik is able to get up to that 12 target range. But he was very efficient with the targets that he did get, 5 of 7 for 66 yards. So I'm expecting a little bit of a breakout game here for Nabers in week 2.
Enjoy sports betting and daily fantasy? Well, Daily Grind is here to help you beat the books. They make premium DFS tools that do all the work for you, comparing lines across just about every platform, looking for discrepancies for you to take advantage of. Start off your research with their DFS Optimizer, a tool that finds all the best plays and rates them with their odds to hit indicator. Or if you'd rather have them make your entire slip for you, they have you covered with their AI slip generator. They'll even notify you when a new slip is available. Go to dgfantasy.com and use code BACKDOOR. They will give you 25% off your first subscription all the way up to a year if you want. That's dgfantasy.com, code BACKDOOR.
All right, so moving on to tight ends. I'm actually going to go with Isaiah Likely here against, they're at home against Las Vegas here. Honestly, this one's a little bit like of a, not a toss-up, but I don't think it's going to be as crazy, obviously, as last week. But I do think Isaiah Likely is, like, I'm starting to feel like he's good for a touchdown, honestly, like, in that range. And honestly, with the way that tight ends performed last week, it was a very shallow week for tight ends, honestly. Like, none of them really performed super solid. So I really like Likely, though, honestly, like 12 targets for 9 receptions. Obviously, Mark Andrews was doubled like the entire game. Andy Holloway was the one to bring that up, where it was like he was doubled the entire game. So they
even
used
tripled sometimes.
Yeah, so they used
tripling him.
Yeah, so they used Likely as like a wide receiver, like a big wide receiver. So honestly, like looking at their wide receiver core, we got Zay Flowers, and then it's kind of like, what else? Like I don't really think anyone else kind of pops off the radar. But I think they're going to start using Likely as honestly like, their big wide receiver. So I do like that a lot. I am a Mark Andrews and Likely holder. So I'm stuck in a rock and a hard place here where I'm like, I kind of want to start Mark Andrews again. But honestly, like if I was in a situation where I had like a Hunter Henry as my tight end or something like that, I'm gonna just throw Likely in and just see what happens. You know what I mean? So if you guys are
For
running
sure.
like a low end tight end and you kind of stacked up your wide receivers, your running backs, and you went with like a later round and you snagged Likely in like maybe your wire or something, I'm going to start him this week. So, we'll see. I think I'm going to make the decision right now to just throw him in and see what happens. My team's, fortunately in a good spot, so I can kind of afford to take that risk. But yeah, I'm just going to throw him in and see what happens this week. That's kind of where I'm at, because I'm like, Mark Andrews, he looked kind of banged up still. Like, I'm not, like, even looking at the film and everything, it just looked like he was playing a little sluggish. He was doubled and triple covered. Kansas City just was like, you're not going to use Mark Andrews against us tonight. But it just kind of looked like a little sluggish. So we'll see. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll bounce back. I think as the year goes on, they'll find that chemistry again. And I think they're going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets to get Likely and Andrews on the floor. Obviously, they need to. Likely is just so talented. Like, it's like a basketball player, who's just out there jumping over everybody, grabbing the ball. So it looks amazing. So I think I'm going to go with starting Likely over Mark Andrews even this week. So that's just
spicy.
Yeah, it's just,
I like it.
I'm going to try it out and see what happens. But yeah, that's my take. I think Likely's got a good matchup going into Vegas. They're not super solid in the secondary. So they're actually really small too in the secondary. So I do like this matchup for Likely going in, being the bigger guy. I think, that's just, that's my take there. So the over under on this game, let's take a look here. This is the first, technically, I mean, it's the early window, so there's a bunch of games on at 12, but we got an 8.5 point favorite to the Ravens. I think that's fair. I think the Ravens are going to win this game. 41.5 over under, so that would be a nice big over under game. And yeah, so they're favorites by a minus 425, so that's pretty solid, honestly. Yeah, that's I'm just going to roll Likely in my tight end spot this week, and that's who I got.
Yeah, man. 41.5 over under. Ravens favored by 8.5. This could be a really good week for Derrick Henry to bounce back to.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, pretty spicy starting Likely over Andrews. Like, I could see a bunch of different scenarios, but I kind of feel like with what we saw from Likely, like if you guys watched our I don't even know if it was a picks show, but whatever video it was where we were instantly reacting to that, like we were talking like this was the moment that Likely just took over that. And we don't know that that's not the case. But Andy Holloway from the Fantasy Footballers did make a really good breakdown of it on X and showed, the film. He had all the film attached. And we were like so shell shocked by what was going on that I wasn't even seeing all these times that the Chiefs were double, triple covering Andrews, which is something that they've been doing for a while. Like that's been kind of their game plan whenever they play the Ravens. But Isaiah Likely just looked so good. Like he looked like a wide receiver 1. Like, so I have to agree. Like if I had to choose, I think I'm probably going Likely. Just because I think even if Andrews, if they try to make a little bit of a statement, get him more involved, feed him targets, I could see Andrews like doubling Likely's receptions and Likely still outproducing him by a lot with the way they use Likely. So I love that pick for this week, and especially for daily fantasy. Like Likely's sneaky for like DraftKings and stuff like that this week at tight end. My tight end is going to be an obvious one. He's a guy that if he's on your squad, you're not like deciding whether or not to start him. But I just had to go with him because of the matchup and because week 1 was just so weird for tight ends. Like, like I wouldn't be surprised if Likely was the top scoring tight end for fantasy in week 1 and he's a backup. So that tells you how the tight ends looked in week 1. But I'm going to be going with Trey McBride. I just love this matchup. He actually got a lot of targets last week, 9 targets, 5 receptions for only 30 yards. But let's take a look at this over under. So yeah, 48.5 over under should be high scoring. Look at this. We got the Cardinals favored by 1 on the spread. I mean, the Cardinals looked good in week 1. That's why I went on my rant last night about the Kyler Murray talk. But the Cardinals offense looks great. Drew Petzing, I think, is one of the best offensive coordinators in the league. Very underrated. He has such a balanced approach to his game. And I think we see a bounce back week from Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think that Kyler is just like not targeting Marvin Harrison Jr. Kyler missed that huge opportunity there, but that wasn't because he was trying not to pass the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. It was just a messed up situation for Kyler where he missed a wide open play there. But he was also heavily pressured on that situation. He was kind of scrambling and he just missed that read, you know, but I think that we're going to see a lot more looks towards Marvin Harrison Jr. this week. And the Rams are going to have to pay attention to him. And so I think that Trey McBride is going to have a solid outing. I wouldn't be surprised if he does get into the end zone this week, but 9 targets, 5 receptions, you know, like I think that if he does get that kind of a target share again this week, I think that he'll be able to pull down more than 5 because I do think Marvin Harrison's going to be more involved. Also, James Conner, that was my start of the week last week for running backs. I almost had to run it back because he came out and Drew stuck to the script that I was banking on. Because I'm a Cardinals fan, first of all, but also like I've had James Conner in fantasy forever. So I knew people were sleeping on Conner last year. If you look at those last 5 games, and that's Drew Petzing. And unfortunately, he's probably going to get a head coaching offer next season. And I'm going to be heartbroken because I want him to stay. But I think between James Conner, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride's going to have to be involved, because that defense is going to be focusing on both of those guys, but it's also going to be a high scoring game. Cooper Kupp was almost my start of the week at wide receiver, but I thought that was just like a little too obvious given the situation and given the talent there. So I went with Malik Nabers, but I feel good about Trey McBride getting some serious opportunities this week in what should be a high scoring game with 2 defenses that are they're competent, but neither of them are the Steelers. You know, it's not like these are elite defenses. So yeah, feeling good about that. If you have any players that you're stoked about, or if you have any questions about fantasy, just leave us a comment. We'll try to get back to as many as we can. We put out some notes on our X and on YouTube about like if you had questions, we would answer them in the show. I did not see anyone getting back to us, so I apologize if you did and we missed it. But yeah, this podcast is just something new we launched this year, so kind of still getting the wheels rolling here. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. Don't forget to go check out our picks show. We've got that live right now, and we drop a picks video for every single NFL slate. When basketball starts, we're going to go every basketball slate. It just gets wild once basketball starts, but we love doing it. That's our main, sort of our flagship show is our, underdog and prize picks videos. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, give us a like, leave us a comment. But yeah, we'll be running it all year. So definitely get subscribed, and we appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll catch you in the next one.
Good luck, guys.